On this short video, I want to discuss a little bit the division of the 12 tribes of Israel and the camps, the encampments, which we read in this weekly reading, the Parshat Bemidbar. There were 3 camps in each direction of the sun, and there were also camps of Leviim closer to the tabernacle. So the Leviim, the Levites, were divided also into 4 groups. We're not going to discuss that at the moment. So I'm going to quote a little bit from the Sefer Yetzira. It's an ancient Kabbalistic book, and the commentary of the Vilna Gaon to it, who matches the tribes to specific letters of the Hebrew alphabet and to the months of the year. So it's a very interesting pattern. In many cases, he agrees with Arizal, with another very major, maybe the greatest Kabbalist. But there were a couple of places where he seems to explain somewhat differently from Arizal. And also, we have a few sources with regards to specific precious stones that were in what's called Choshen Mishpat. We learned it, of course, in the book of Shemot, how the Kohen Gadol, the high priest, used to have 12 precious stones on his breastplate, and the names of the tribes of Israel were engraved on those stones. As well as, by the way, Chazal say the words, the names of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, and also the words Shiftei Yeshurun or Shiftei Israel, tribes of Israel. The purpose was that every letter of the alphabet would appear among these letters. Some letters were missing from the names of the tribes, so they were compensated by these other words. Altogether, there were 72 letters on those stones. There's also some dispute about which stone corresponded to what tribe, but we have a source in Bemidbar Raba, in Midrash Rabbah, to this week's Parsha, which tries to match the stone and also discusses the flags that each tribe had and what was on each flag. And there is a different tradition, somewhat different, that Rabeynu Bachye brings in his commentary. And also there are some other traditions. So I'm going to mention, again, it's almost impossible to discuss all of these, but I'm going to mention a certain correspondence based on all these sources: months, tribes, stones, colors, and some of the great explanation can be found on my website, torah1.com, which I'm going to reference to this video. Again, the tribes here are divided in the most logical, probably, manner, and that is Leah had, of course, 6 sons, which would make sense if 3 and 3 were in 2 of the camps. The problem is that Levi, the Levites, were separate, as I mentioned, and they were inside closer to the tabernacle than the rest of the encampments. So therefore, since one was missing, it was compensated by the tribe of Gad. Gad was a son of Leah's concubine, and he was the first son, so it made sense that he would be part of the encampment with Leah's other 2 children. So what happened was there was one camp with the last 3 sons of Leah, Yehuda, Yisachar, and Zvulun, and one camp with Reuben, Shimon, and Gad. As I said, Gad was compensating for the fact that Levi was missing. If Levi would be there, he would probably be in the same camp, but since he was not, therefore Gad was the compensation. And then the 3 descendants of Rachel were together, since Yosef is considered 2 tribes, separately Menashe, separately Ephraim. So therefore the camp of Ephraim had Menashe and also another son of Leah, Binyamin. So all of them were together. And then what was left is the Machane of Dan, together with other 2 sons of concubines. So all of this makes a lot of sense, and there's a lot of discussion in Kabbalistic literature and also in various other commentaries, and symbolically what each direction of the camps represented. Now apparently there were specific symbols and flags possibly for each of the general directions. The 4 directions that the 3 tribes in each represented were combined in kind of one grouping, and that had a separate flag. We know, of course, the idea of what Prophet Yechezkel saw, the angels that have 4 faces in 4 directions. And also Chazal talk about 4 angels that have to do with these 4 directions. We're not going to go into any of this. But besides the bigger flags for each of the 4 larger groups, each tribe had a separate flag, according to Chazal. Now notice, by the way, that the word degel, which means a flag today, apparently the biblical meaning of that word was not actually the flag. The degel was the actual camp. And yeah, the degel is a biblical word, and it's mentioned in our week's Parsha. But it's not talking about the flag specifically, apparently. It's talking about the actual encampment. But each encampment actually had a flag. Chazal say that. As I said, Midrash Raba in Bemidbar Raba, for example, discusses which tribe had which flag. So here's the table that I made based on Vilna Gaon's writings. And as I said, not everything is agreed upon, but at least this is one opinion. So here's how it goes. The month of Nisan, the first month of the year, corresponds to Yehuda, the first person in the first camp. Of course, one of the most major tribes. Here, by the way, the division according to the tribes and months, the division, as the Vilna Gaon puts it, is Levi is counted, but Yosef is all one, includes Menashe and Ephraim. So at any rate, Yehuda corresponds to Nisan. So in terms of signs of zodiac, that's Aries. And there are also various actions that are related in Sefer Yetzira to these 12 months. So the action on Pesach is to speak, right? It's the main action that we do is speaking during the Seder. So the 12 actions that correspond to these months, the months of Nisan, the main action that's taking place on that month is speaking. I'm not going to mention everything with regards to actions here, since anybody could look up my article on Torah1.com as I'll reference. I'll only mention some of these actions. So in terms of the flag, according to Midrash Rabbah, it was a blue flag with a lion. Right? Lion represents Yehuda, and that's the general direction of the face that's in what Yechezkel saw. By the way, usually the maps today are made with north being on the top. But in terms of Jewish thought, it's the east that's on the top, right? You're facing east normally. So at any rate, the tribe of Yehuda is the first camp that was on the east that would move first when the encampments would be moving one after another, as when they transferred the tabernacle from place to place as they moved during the traveling in the desert. The second, by the way, there is another thing in Sefer Yetzira, that it divides the Jewish alphabet, 22 letters, into 3 groups. One group of just 3 letters has to do with what they called mothers of all letters. It's the first letter, the pre-last letter, and the middle letter, kind of. It's Aleph, Mem, and Shin. Rabbi Kaplan, by the way, wrote a commentary in English to Sefer Yetzira, and there are very interesting things he writes there. Among other things, we know that Shin is the letter that is the most bubbling kind of. It's most. It corresponds to the fire, very unstable kind of thing, and that's what you see on. I think oscilloscope is the device on which you could see the projection of the sound. Is the opposite. It's the most stable kind of sound, and that corresponds to water. And something in between is avir, the air, and that's the aleph. And then there are 7 other letters that have doublets, or at least used to have doublets. They received the light dagesh, so something like bet and vet, pay and fe, and things like that. So those 7 correspond to 7 days of the week, and many other 7s. And then the last group is the 12 letters, and that's connected the 12 months of the calendar, and the other 12s that exist, 12 tribes, etc. So here everything is in order. So the first of the regular letters, that's not from the mothers and not from the doublets, is letter He, right? Because Aleph is mother letter, the Bet and Gimel and Dalet all receive dagesh, the light dagesh, what's called, meaning in some congregations they still pronounce it differently, Gimel with Dagesh, without Dagesh, like Gimel and Gimel, or according to Yemenite pronunciation, Gimel and Gimel. Dalet used to be pronounced as the without Dagesh, the. So the first letter that doesn't accept this Dagesh and also is not of the mothers is Hey. So Hey corresponds to Yehuda. Makes a lot of sense, right? Letter Hey, of course, is the main letter of the word Yehuda. Appears twice in the name. And I'm not going to go into all the rest of the letters. I just wanted to mention that there is a correspondence of the rest remaining 12 letters to these 12 tribes. So then the next tribe is Yisachar. It corresponds to the month of Iyar. And according to Midrash Rabbah, its stone was black and its flag was black. And there was sun and moon on this flag because they were great in knowledge of astronomy. In fact, this may have been also part of the partnership, the known partnership between Issachar and Zvulun. Zvulun was doing commerce and went on ships to faraway places, and you need a lot of knowledge of astronomy to be able to know where you are in the sea. So astronomy was very important for this too, besides Jewish calendar, of course. They were generally very knowledgeable. It says that besides Yehuda and Levi, Issachar was also one of those tribes that was great in the knowledge of Torah, and in particular, they were great in astronomical knowledge. Reuben corresponds to Sivan, and right, that's Gemini in terms of the signs of zodiac. Right, our signs of zodiac are not exactly like the Western astrology; they just go by the months. Each month corresponds to one sign. And the color, according to one opinion, was red, and on the flag was a person. There are other opinions too in terms of what was on the flag. There are also possibilities sometimes when we have this Midrash Rabbah, as Rav Aryeh Kaplan brings in the Living Torah, when he brings various opinions, which stone corresponded to which tribe. He says that sometimes in the copying of the Midrash Rabbah, there may have been some kind of transposition, meaning they mistakenly put, as the copies would copy, they would mistakenly switch the two stones. So sometimes you may have the wrong color for the wrong stone. Next one, according to the Gra, is Naphtali, Keneged the month of Tammuz. And the color apparently was violet. And the deer, right, in the blessing of Naphtali, it says that he was a quick deer, was on that flag. Shimon corresponds to the month of Av, right? That's the most difficult tribe, which wasn't even mentioned in the blessings of Moshe, as we know. And there was a lot of sins mentioned with regards to the tribe of Shimon, including with Midianite women. And that, of course, corresponds to our worst month of the year when the temple was destroyed. That's the month of Av. And the flag was green, and the city of Shechem was on that flag, according to some opinions. Gad corresponds to the month of Elul, and its flag was black with white, and there was a camp. Gad Gedud Yegudena, right? The camp of Gad. They were great warriors. Their territory was on the very edge, on the eastern side of Jordan, and they had large territories, and they constantly had to fight the invaders and protect the others. It was like a buffer zone for everybody else. Yosef corresponds to the month of Tishrei, right? Notice that Yehuda and Yosef are two opposite months, and both months have the almost all the holidays, right? Nisan versus Tishrei. So on Yosef's portion is the main month of our holidays, and he had apparently also a bright black flag, and had a bull, according to some opinions, on that flag. Others say that he had two princes, since two tribes came out of Yosef, and there are other possibilities too. The flag of the month of Cheshvan corresponds to Levi, and Scorpion, right, is the sign of zodiac, and the flag, according to some midrash, was black, white, and red. And Urim and Tumim, of course, were on that flag, right? The Kohanim, the Kohen Gadol, that used Urim and Tumim to get divine messages, a kind of prophecy. Binyamin corresponds to the month of Kislev according to the Gra, and the action is to sleep. And right, that's what ultimately resulted in the Hanukkah, by the way, that month, the miracle of Hanukkah. And he had a lot of different colors on his flag and on the stone, and the wolf was on it, like in the blessing of Yaakov. Dan, month of Tevet, right, another difficult month in our history, when the Babylonian king started the siege that led to the destruction of the temple. And the flag was black, and the picture on the flag, according to some opinions, was an eagle. Asher corresponds to the month of Shvat, right? Tu B'Shvat, and Asher had this great land with a lot of produce, including olives. And the action is also to eat. And it was light yellow flag, and olive tree was on it. And at last, Zvulun corresponds to Adar, the laughing, right? The month of laughing. And he had a white flag with a ship on it. As I said, Zvulun was busy with commerce mostly. And on this I'm going to end, and as I said, there will be a reference at the bottom of this video to the written portion of this, which I summarized on this video. And if you like this video, please press like and please subscribe to our channel.